I have a killer episode for you guys today. We're going to be hearing, and I'm going to be speaking with Matteo Grassi from Popup. Popup is a brand new e-commerce platform in development. It's been in development for about a year. Popup is in soft beta right now, and it takes a totally new approach to e-commerce platforms. So enjoy, have a great time. I think you're gonna love this one. This is the E-commerce Edge Podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. I have an amazing guest for you today, Matteo Grassi from Popup. Matteo, awesome to have you along for the ride today.
Thanks to Jason for having me, and you pronounced my name beautifully, so I'm really glad.
Thank you. We were talking off air about the fact that I'm starting to relearn my Spanish. I took it in high school many years ago, and now that we're off to Mexico soon, I'm in Duolingo every day, and I've been taking some online Spanish classes, and hopefully that's gonna kick everything back off again. I find that once I'm back in Mexico, language seems to come back pretty quickly. Even if you have some latent memory of a language, you seem to pick it back up pretty quickly when you're surrounded by it.
Yeah, also, I think if you have tequila every day, I think that helps a lot as well. So I'm not sure.
It's funny you should say that. It's funny you should say that because when I'm on the online classes, when we're talking with each other and everything else, I find that just a little bit of alcohol, not a ton, just a little bit of alcohol tends to loosen the tongue a little bit. It makes the conversation flow a little bit easier. Maybe it makes you a little bit less self-conscious about your pronunciation. I don't know what it is, but definitely having a little bit of alcohol on board just makes the conversation flow a little bit easier, especially when you're learning a new language.
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock in my time because I'm in Ireland and I'm having a glass of wine right now. So like full transparency, so people cannot see me. But yeah, I am having a glass of red wine.
And as so you should, considering that you're Italian. It's a prerequisite, right?
Yeah, it's an excuse. I can even have it during lunch and no one will judge me because it's like, oh, you're having wine during lunch, but I'm Italian, and people are like, okay, that's fine. So I think I can play that card.
So how did an Italian come to be coming from a sunny, warm, Latin American country? How did you end up in cold, rainy, gray Ireland?
I wasn't actually living very far away from you, Jason. I was living in Australia at the time, and I met an Irish girl in Australia. We lived there for about 4 years. And then we decided to move back to Europe. She didn't want to actually come back to Ireland because obviously she was living in Australia and I'm Italian. And I was like, oh, let's go back to Italy. And I said, okay, let's try this. And I'm talking about 2005, 2006, right? That's the time frame there. We moved to Milan. I got a job in an advertising agency as a brand strategist, which really good agency. I was working with like really cool brands, but Italy, advertising, Milan. Probably I think I was making around 1,000 euro a month, and I wasn't even employed. I actually had to pay my own taxes.
Wow.
So the money situation was really grim. That's the main reason as well why I left Italy. It's not as easy to be an entrepreneur, very hard because of tax system and everything else, but also jobs. Maybe it's improved a little bit right now, but at the time was really hard. So I got an offer in Ireland. My wife at the time, was Irish. So she was like, okay, maybe let's go to Ireland and make some money and not try to struggle so much. I got an amazing offer with this company. I was basically making, 5 times more money than I was making in Italy with a fraction of cost of living because I moved to Galway, which is in the west of Ireland. It's not Dublin. So the cost of living wasn't high at the time. It's still not high now, but at the time it wasn't. And that's how I ended up being here for so long. And remote work wasn't a thing. Now it's the norm. You get a job, you may get a remote work job, and you can move wherever you want and work from wherever you want. But in 2006, 2008, 2009, during those years, remote work wasn't a thing. So the job that you had was linked to the place that you lived. And that's why I ended up in here. And then I had a daughter and stuck.
It sounds like you got stuck for all the right reasons, though.
Yeah, no, but also the scene in Ireland is always been good, especially like the tech scene, and the people are very friendly. Tax system as well is really friendly as well, which kind of helps a lot. So yeah, there was a lot of reasons why I then decided to stay. But I think it's time for me to move. And next year I'm going to be moving to Lisbon, which is a city that I discovered lately, which is an amazing city in capital of Portugal, and very cool startup scene and very nice weather, which is what I've been missing the most of all the things that I've been missing the most.
Don't blame you. And, after you moved to Ireland, then you started to work with Shopify on the Shopify Plus team. You've also owned e-commerce brands through the
Yes.
Viceroy Group,
Yep.
D2C brands, made investments in D2C brands, a portfolio of D2C brands. And then obviously we'll walk through a little bit more of your past before we get into what you're doing today, because what you're doing today, I think the foundations for what you're doing today were actually potentially even set when you were working at Shopify and becoming deeply embedded in the e-commerce ecosystem in Europe. I'm guessing a lot of that had to do with where we're at today.
Yeah, 100%. I think it was a journey to what I'm doing today that started from, I think from Shopify, definitely. I was in Shopify in 2015, 2016. I was the first, no, maybe that was the first Italian in Shopify, in the whole company. And I was the second in Shopify Plus in Europe. I'm talking about really early days of Shopify Plus. And it started there. That's actually where I met my co-founder as well. We met in Shopify. We went to training together in Canada. And then a few years later, we co-founded what it became a portfolio of direct-to-consumer brands. We started with one brand, and then slowly we added more. And we grew that to 60 million in revenue, starting with $1,000. So it was fully bootstrapped. We didn't raise any capital, didn't raise any money. It was a time where acquisition, it was in a very different place than it is right now. So you could really scale brands with Facebook advertising by doubling the budget, maintaining a stable return on ad spend without a flinch. And at the same time, we're doing a lot of like Outbrain and native ads and Pinterest ads. We use this kind of omnichannel strategy, and then changed a lot, especially during iOS 14. And so we had to pivot the company. But at the time already, we were started building Popup, which is the e-commerce platform that we're building today. And as you were saying, I think a lot of the things that we were seeing as merchants ourselves, but also speaking with a lot of merchants, because my role in Shopify was a merchants facing role. So I was talking to merchants literally every day about their setup, what they could do, what they couldn't do, how it could help them. And it came to the realization that people have been building online stores in the same way for the last 30 years. And Shopify has improved, and the accessibility for sure to build online stores has improved the experience of building an online store. That is not like, hey, I pay a developer or I set up a Yahoo store like it was in the 90s. But at the same time, they didn't change the way people build online stores. So with Popup, that became our main goal. It's like reinvent how people build online store forever.
Wow, what an incredible journey. And look, it sounds like you've got this deeply embedded entrepreneurial spirit that's within you, and you've started multiple companies, you've run multiple companies, but you've also been right at the coalface of commerce for so many years now that it feels almost like a very natural evolution into Popup, which to me, when we first started talking about Popup and what it is, how it works, what it does, I started browsing your website. We started talking a little bit more about what your vision ultimately is for Popup, and it's extremely ambitious. And I love that fact. I love whenever somebody tries to take on a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. I love that. I love it when people who come from our industry want to disrupt our industry in a very positive way. I think that we need builders. We need people that are visionary, what comes next. And I feel like you have put it all on the line, so to speak, with Popup, based on your background, based on your experience. And what you're trying to build is super ambitious. It takes elements and in some of the concepts from some other platforms, but it is truly unique in the way that you are building it. Now, if we just to describe Popup at a very high level for people out there in the audience that may be considering learning more about it, your domain is popup.store. And really the concept behind your platform, as I understand it, and from what I can see online and what you showed me, the concept is to be a no-code, or at least very low-code commerce platform that lets you control the customer journey visually. Now, what I've seen here and what you've demoed for me is that we have this concept of a journey builder. And what I liken it to is something more akin to what we would typically see in like a marketing automation platform or a CDP platform, where you can create these customer journeys visually in a drag and drop editor, with the pages and the content blocks actually being generated by Popup to support the customer journey that you're trying to create. Now, we typically in e-commerce have such a traditionally linear journey for customers that goes homepage, category page, PDP, cart, checkout. That is the very traditional journey flow. And that works in lots of situations because it's a flow that customers understand. It's a flow that they recognize. It's a flow that they get on millions of platforms all over the world, including and up to even Amazon follows a very, very similar journey flow. But what you guys have done is said, okay, we want to shake this up. We want to turn this concept on its head and say, that doesn't work for every situation. It doesn't work for every customer. And it certainly doesn't work depending on where the customer lands, say from an ad or from an organic listing in search. It doesn't necessarily create a fantastic customer journey, right? And it creates a lot of backwards and forwards traversing that journey. Category back to home, category to PDP, back to category, back to home. There's a lot of backwards and forwards. And so it's perhaps not as seamless a flow as what we could create if we had the flexibility to break that model, to break that paradigm. And that feels very much like what you guys are trying to do with Popup.
Yeah, 100%. I think you explained it beautifully. Really cool. It's when people explain Popup to me, I think you were one of the best explanations. I'm glad we're recording this. And truly, I think what has been happening is that e-commerce platform have been trying to play catch up with every other social media platform or every other company that has been involved in acquisition. And the way we acquire traffic together with that is very much linked of how society has been evolving and consumer behavior has been evolving. It's been evolving so fast. And so TikTok comes out. Okay, I backtrack a little bit. Let's say before there was no Facebook advertising. When Facebook advertising came out, they completely disrupted the way to acquire traffic. And then TikTok's coming out, and then link in bios are coming out of new ways of acquiring traffic. Maybe now we're going to see Netflix and Disney Plus and TV ads coming back out in these type of platforms. At the same time, you have virtual rooms, you have live streaming. So new ways of acquiring traffic, new ways of selling product are evolving at a pace that every 3 or 4 months, if you're not keeping up as a marketer, you're already out of touch of what's going on. But the blueprint of an online store, as you were saying, homepage, category page, PDP, cart and checkout, stay the same for 30 years. And the moment you're trying to change that, you either get developers and you build something completely customized, or you start adding an array of apps. And then these stores are becoming almost this Frankenstein, where you have all these apps trying to solving one problem and trying to basically keep up of the consumer behavior that I was mentioning before. And that's where Papa came in. It was like, you need something that is more modular. You need something that is flexible. We need to break down this blueprint and give you the building blocks. And then whatever you want to do, you're going to use these building blocks based on what you're trying to achieve on your marketing strategy and your acquisition strategy, your retention strategy, or influencer collaboration, or end of year sale, or whatever you want to do. And the merchants that we have now on the platform, they're using the platform in ways that I didn't even think it was possible, because I've been out of like direct to consumer brands as a marketer for about a year and a half, and I've been just focusing on Popup. And I already see that in a year and a half, there's been a lot of things that I don't know, that I have not tested out. Like TikTok ads, I think it just started before I left like the direct to consumer world. So it's interesting to see now merchants that are actually selling online and marketers that are selling online, the way they're using the platform.
And what I also love about where you're headed with this is not only are you breaking the paradigm by making, the concept of a page type, whether it be a lead page, a sales page, a checkout page, a category page, the ability to drop these quote types of pages into a specific workflow, into a specific journey that allows you to really customize the exact workflow that produces the least amount of friction for the type of traffic that is being sent to the originating page. I love that. The second thing that I really love is your concept of a grid engine, meaning that for the design of the individual pages themselves, it looks like you've taken a bit of a page out of some of the other web builders that are now moving to a very grid-like scenario, something like a Squarespace with their new Fluid engine, which I think is amazing. I use it on my own web. I use it on my own website. I think they've done amazing stuff with their Fluid engine. I really, really like the direction they're headed with that. It makes the building blocks of a page and blocks within a page much more seamless. All of a sudden, we now are moving towards a world where you don't necessarily need a professional designer to design every single page, every single block, and every single element on every single page, as long as you've got a really good library of blocks and pages and tools that you can use to build these pages in a very grid-like way that makes the page very seamless, flows very well. So not only do you have the building blocks of the workflows or the journey builder that you're, and like I said, from what I can see here, it looks very like I think marketers are going to like Popup because so much of what they do today in their marketing platforms and in their marketing tools has the concept of a customer journey built in, and having waypoints or touch points throughout that journey. You've built your platform very much with that same exact model or that same exact concept in mind, which I think marketers will take to duck to water. And as you say, they won't necessarily have to have someone technical behind them to be able to make these journeys and touch points happen. But then you've also taken it one level further and you've said, hey, we not only want to make the journey flows really easy to create throughout a website, but we also want to make the pages, the blocks, the elements, and the content super easy to structure by non-technical people as well.
Yeah, I think it's definitely democratizing a lot of things that were accessible just to a small, I guess, a smaller amount of people, almost democratizing as well conversion rate optimization. And we do see that marketing savvy e-commerce brands and marketing savvy even solopreneurs, even though they don't have a brand, maybe they're a dropshipper or an affiliate, they love Popup. And I think it comes because a lot of things that people want to do, a lot of things that marketers want to do, they always hit a roadblock. And this has happened to me as well. And the roadblock is, hey, maybe I want to test native ads. Okay, where you need probably now something to create an infomercial that goes into a product page or a sales page. And after you want to put a checkout, and then you want to put an upsell and then the confirmation page. Something like this, if you want to do it in Shopify, you know already that you have to start adding 3 or 4 apps, right? And so a lot of merchants that we talked to, they were like, I never thought of this because I didn't know it was possible, or I knew it was going to cost me too much money, or it was going to cost too much time. And I was chatting to a merchant yesterday about this. I was like, hey, why didn't you actually start to do this influencer collaboration? And you can create, she has a lot of influencer. And I was like, you can create these kind of journeys. Every influencer can have his own particular journey. And then you can share the link, obviously, because they have the different URLs, different entry points. So the influencer, and then you can use an action in Popup to tag the order. So you can give 10%, let's say, back of all the sales that you have. And in this way, she basically now able to start like an influencer type of marketing initiative without even have to add an affiliate tracking software, because all she does is tagging the order. And at the end of the month, she has all the orders tagged. She sees which influencer has made the money. She pulls out the reports, and then she just gives 10% back or 15%, whatever she wants to do, to the influencer. And if that works, then maybe she can invest in an affiliate software, etc. But this ability to test so quick, she never thought about it. I knew what it was, but she never thought about it because she was like, how am I going to do this? I have to call a developer to do all of this. And now suddenly it's possible. So I think actually that's what makes me happy, is empowering. When I see that we can empower merchants' imagination and they have fun again. And I hit that roadblock so many times when I was a merchant. You stop having fun because you're just stuck, right? And then at one stage you hit that roadblock that you're like, I cannot do anything more because it's going to take the business out of the direction and it's going to add too much complexity. And now suddenly with Popup, it's no, I'm having fun again. I'm trying new things. I'm testing new things. I am letting my imagination run free. And this is what I think is most exciting of what I'm doing today.
That's a great segue into the area of conversion rate optimization, because not only are you creating a platform that has a journey builder and the page builder built in, but you also have this concept of being able to split traffic dynamically between 2 different pages or 2 different journeys and 2 different originating points as well, which again is going to democratize CRO in a way that is all but impossible with other platforms. It's people think that being able to do A/B testing or split testing or even journey testing on a modern website like a Shopify or BigCommerce or whatever, they think that's going to be easy. They'll install some A/B testing software with a JavaScript snippet or whatever, and then they'll set the rules up, and it just runs. But actually, from a technical standpoint, there's a heck of a lot more to it than that. And with your platform, you are really striving to make this as simple as making a fork in the road in a customer journey within your journey builder. And so much like what as easy as it is today to create an A/B test within, say, Klaviyo. You're looking to create that exact same type of experience through your journey builder and make it just that simple. And because each of those pages will have a unique URL, it makes the whole concept of testing becomes substantially easier.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's also like Shogun, for example, they do A/B testing, and it's an app that you can install in Shopify. You can have a front end, like the first page is like a landing page. You can A/B test landing pages. Unbounce does that as well. But with Popup, the ability to A/B test is on anything. You're going to be able to A/B test checkouts. You're going to be able to A/B test upsell offers. You're going to be able to A/B test any element, not just like the front page. And I think that's where things start to get interesting, when we're going to add this A/B testing functionality together with journey analytics, because this is what came up a few times during the conversation with some merchants, especially the conversion rate optimizations marketers. And they were like, we can do a lot of things that you are doing right now, not visually. Maybe we have to hack things together, but with an array of apps and maybe some funnel builders, we can actually do it as well. Maybe they're using WooFunnels together with WooCommerce. Not the great experience again, but they're doing it. But the issue that they're having is the data is fragmented. You're still using 2 or 3 different platforms hacked together, and you're not going to be able to see on the funnel, on the journey level, where customers are dropping and what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. So when we introduce in Popup the journey analytics, you're not going to need any external app. You can actually be able to see everything in front of you. Also, because as humans, we are visual creatures. You're going to be able to see all the data in front of you, understanding what's working and understanding what's not. So when you add A/B testing with journey analytics, that gives you the power of quick testing and understanding what you have to do to actually convert more. That will give you the ability in the long term to have massive returns and actually to convert more visitors into customer. So immediately your conversion rate optimization is going to be the same probably as using an array of apps at Shopify, maybe on the first week. But in the long run, because of your ability to test and iterating and scaling quicker, is going to be much higher.
Wow. And I think if I understand rightly, you also mentioned that one of the visions moving forward is to be able to record not just the journey flow as part of the analytics, but to do session recording ultimately is the holy grail of that too, right?
Yeah, we've been thinking about that too. We've been obviously also adding routing as well, which is something that we have been exploring, meaning that the traffic that comes in now, obviously you create different entry points, but we thinking about doing automatic routing. So let's say your traffic comes from mobile, you automatically is routed to an entry point, comes from desktop to an entry point, or maybe your traffic comes from US or from a country, or things like that. So we've been looking into different things that combined together, it literally gives the power to democratize, well, as you said, optimization for anyone. And people think about, oh, but if you have the money, maybe you are a big merchant, you can pay someone to do it. And it's true. And we've been speaking to brands that have VC-funded brands with a headless stack, right? So when you're talking with brands like this, they have the money, they have the developers, and they have a solution that pretty much allows them to do anything. But the issue that they have is time. When they want to implement something, the marketing team needs to rely on a developing team to do it. And it always takes quite a bit of time. And so in this way with Popup, you actually can empower the marketing team to make decisions on their own without having to rely on the developing team and to a long process to actually implement things that will allow them to seize the opportunity as they come.
And this starts to get into an area where you guys, although you won't do everything out of the gate phase 1, that something like a Nosto or some of the search and merch platforms do today. They've been doing what they do for a very long time, so we wouldn't expect you to do that out of the gate. But what this hints at is the ability to dynamically segment, or have the system dynamically segment based on rules, based on who the customer is, where they've come from, what other pages they visited, etc. And it allows you then to effectively, dynamically on the fly, shape and guide the rest of their journey through the site based on customer data, behavioral data, and other segment data, other behavioral data that would drop them into effectively a specific segment. You can then tailor their journey through the site based on those rules, or based on the data combined with civic rules. And I really like the idea that, sure, this may not be possible today, but because of the way that you are capturing data, because of the way that you automatically have to segment it for the analytical portion and for the A/B testing portion, by definition, that then means that you can shape the customer journey dynamically on the fly ultimately as well.
Yeah, I think that's super important, because one thing that we know is that if you create a shopping experience that is relatable, and it's also, he has a good connection to where this customer is coming from, it's either through an ad or a country or whatever it is. If you create that level of personalization, you convert more. We know that. I've seen it all the time. It's if you create that link between the ads and the landing page, and also not just the landing page, the full experience that they go. And when we sold in a lot of countries, when we were doing a lot of business in Brazil, we did a lot of business in Germany as well. And one thing that maybe not many people know, but US people, they love the single page checkout. Germans don't. Germans love multi-step because they are not so sure about it. They want to check. They want to make sure. They want to know who you are. So they want the multi-step checkout. So this conception of, single page checkout is better than multi-step, I say it depends where you are. It's like there's literally not one size fit all in commerce. And this is where Popup, I think, this is the battle that we're trying to fight. That there's no one size fit all approach to success, obviously, but also there's not one size fit all in when it comes down to commerce.
Well, commerce and culture. And even in one of my mentorship sessions the other day, and one of the episodes that's, I can't remember whether it's actually already been released or whether it will be coming out soon, I can't remember. But one of the things we were talking about with one of the group sessions was that there was a brand that had been doing a campaign. They were a jewelry brand. And what they found is that the same exact promotions that they ran, and then they were multi-country, and so they were multi-site, multi-country. And what they found is that oftentimes some of even the promotions that they would run, say in the United States, would go off in the United States, but they could run the exact same type of promotion, say in the UK or another European country, and they would find that that campaign would go nowhere. And to your point, I think what you're saying is that culturally, we're all human beings, yes, and we all have similar foundational psychology, but we're a combination of nature and nurture. We've got our nature, but also we are a product of the culture that we're raised in. We're a product of the family that we're raised in. So what in one country or one region or one culture is not necessarily going to translate one for one absolutely everywhere in the world, even though we're all human beings.
Yeah, that's so true. Again, another example in Germany, if you look at even payment gateways, 70% of Germans use PayPal because they fundamentally have a non-trust attitude when it comes down to commerce. While in US, everyone uses credit card. I mean, they just give you your credit card and they are ready to go. So it's like this small difference that I saw when I started with cross-border commerce opens up a lot of ways actually that we have approached when building Popup. And this is why I think difference to Shopify. And we had this conversation, Jason, I think before, that Shopify has always been focused on US.
Yes.
And they haven't been able to catch up with the rest of the world. And I was actually the internationalization team at the time in Shopify. So I was in Europe. So I felt it more than anyone else. And yeah, that's why I think with Popup, we decided to go multi-store from day one. So you can actually have multiple Popup store under one admin. And that allows you actually to have different payment gateways and even customize the type of payment experience that you have on the checkout. Because some people, especially like in the Netherlands, they use Molly. In German, as I said, they prefer PayPal, and they have so forth as well. In America, obviously, in US, they have more credit cards. Brazil, they have Boleto. They have completely different way of payment where you actually go in the post office to pay with cash, and 40% of people pay with that. People are not aware of this, but actually that's the way it happened. If you try to put Stripe on Brazil, no one's gonna buy it because they want to have a local payment solution with the Boleto functionality.
Which is the same in Mexico. They're very, very similar.
In Mexico, yes, correct. Yeah, Latam is the same. Yeah, correct.
So I like the fact that maybe one of the reasons why you have this kind of international view of commerce out of the gate is because you're not American yourself. And maybe that is one of the superpowers that you have, is that by definition, because A, you're not American, and B, because you have a wife that's not from your home culture, plus you've now moved to another different country, and you're going to be moving to another different country to your home country of birth. Maybe this gives you an additional superpower of looking through the world of commerce through a very international lens, because you are a product of your life experiences as well. And maybe that just by definition gives you a very international view of commerce.
Yeah,
Do you think that's the case?
Oh, 100%. And I think I can give even an analogy between, for instance, Italy and New Zealand. When I was speaking with people in US, especially in Shopify at the time, they were like, why would someone want to have sell in different countries and different currency? And I was like, because if you're Italian or if you're from New Zealand, you need to branch out to different countries. There's not enough people in your country, right? It's like this,
Yeah.
you have to sell in different countries, in different languages, different currencies. You have to sell to
Yes.
France, to Germany, you have to tap into the UK market. Eventually, if you are a brand, you're gonna tap out. Like your audience is gonna be get saturated. And for a merchant in US, you have 320 million people paying with the same currencies, speaking the same language. Not only speaking the same language, adhering to the same festivities and holidays and things like that. Because a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, but you sell in Australia, it's a different currency. Maybe you can do a multi-currency checkout because the language is the same. Yes, but the festivities are different. But beside the way that you have summer and winter, it's completely the opposite. But if you really want to personalize something, even the English, American English, UK English, is not just a currency. You have to make sure that when the customer enters in your store, they feel like this is a UK store, this is a Kiwi store, this is an Australian store, this is a US store. Even though you are living in Dubai or living in Ireland, the moment you internationalize, you have to go end to end. The language, the letters, the festivities, everything needs to be on point. That's the only way to do cross-border commerce. And at the time, we were the fast-growing brand in Brazil, and I didn't speak a word of Portuguese. And we did this by doing this, basically, by making sure that when someone Brazilian was coming into our store, which was run by a bunch of Italians at the time, they thought we were from Brazil.
Wow. And I think also that one of the things that, and you alluded to this earlier, that I think forms like Shopify and BigCommerce and even Magento, etc., I think where they struggle is the fact that where they're from is where they focus. And because these are all now, BigCommerce obviously wasn't originally American, but now they're headquartered in the United States and they're basically run by Americans. And for all intents and purposes, now an American company. What we're seeing is that a lot of new functionality that comes to these platforms is either USA only and will potentially always be USA only, or it will definitely be USA first, to the point where some of this functionality won't come to be internationalized for years and years after it's released in the United States. I'm even thinking of something as simple as the original Shopify Pause and Shopify Shop Pay for Pause, for example, and integrated with local terminals. All that stuff was released in the United States first. It took years and years, and it's still not completely globalized yet for Shopify. And their myopic view of commerce is very much focused on the United States. And therefore, it means that if you're a merchant operating outside of the United States, always going to be playing, if you're using that platform, you're always going to be playing second fiddle to merchants in the United States. You're always going to be fighting with one arm tied behind your back as a foreign merchant, as an internationalized merchant. And so I think that this very international view of commerce that you have taken it's a game changer. It really is, because let's be honest, most of the major commerce platforms in the world are headquartered in the United States, and therefore they just by definition are very US centric.
Yes, 100%. And I think nothing like if you get the US market, that's it. It's one of the best markets you can go, because the middle class has very high purchasing power. They love shopping online, and there is 300 million people. But then again, you look in Brazil, there is 300 million people in Brazil. There is 350 million people in Europe. The middle class in Brazil is increasing the spending, same as in Mexico as well. Latam is a really interesting market to go to. Mm-hmm. Europe has always been struggling, being stuck with platforms like PrestaShop and WooCommerce, and Shopify has not yet dominated a lot of the European scene. And not because it's a bad product. I think Europeans will love Shopify in many ways, but they haven't just invested that much. And so people are just being stuck with the same old. And migration is one of the massive pain points that merchants have. So I see a lot of merchants getting stuck in platforms that they know they're not right, but they just don't want to take the leap and migrate in different platforms. This is also, in addition, why we actually built Popup in a way that can be used as a standalone platform, but it's going to be able to be used as well with every other e-commerce platform out there in conjunction. So we don't have to migrate straight away. You can start testing Popup maybe for like influencer collaboration or maybe post-click acquisition campaigns. And then you can migrate as a standalone if you see a fit as a merchant whenever it's right for you.
Love it. Now, also, what I like is that you guys have tried to democratize your pricing as well. Now, just to be fair, you're still in what we would call maybe soft launch beta of the platform. You've got a lot of plans. We're going to talk a little bit in a minute. We can talk a little bit about funding, and we've got some exciting timing of us recording this because you've had some amazing news come through today that I'll let you share. I won't preempt that, but you have democratized the pricing of the platform as well. And from as little as $8 a month, you can get started with the platform. You move to the basic plan at $27 a month, pro at 72, and even advanced at only $269 a month. The reality is that you have tried to, at least from what I can tell here, make this completely accessible and not price yourself. You've basically you've out of the gate been competitive with all the other major SaaS platforms in the market.
Yeah, I think for us as well was easy as well because we had functionality like we're going to have functionality like A/B testing and journey analytics, right? So when you have this type of functionality, you're able to give this functionality just to merchants that are willing to pay $299 a month. Now, if you're looking for A/B testing and journey analytics, you're processing a considerable amount of traffic. So there's no point that someone that's starting out is going to look into A/B testing and analytics. They're not going to care. They probably don't even know what it is. So this is one issue that we've seen a lot, or I've seen a lot personally when I was in Shopify. They couldn't differentiate, and still today, I think they're actually
really
can't between Shopify and Shopify Plus.
Yes.
And I had merchants that were like, what do you do in Shopify Plus? And we didn't have an answer at the time besides saying, hey, you get the merchant success manager, but the price jump was you're going from $299 to $2,000, right?
Yes.
So we have been more, I think, in a fortunate position because of the features that we have to actually allocate some features just for merchants that don't mind paying $300 a month, because when you make the type of money and generating the type of traffic that allows you to do A/B testing, because if you're not generating enough traffic, A/B testing is not going to work. So it allowed us to, almost like you said, democratizing pricing. Because what I've noticed, if you're a merchant that is processing a considerable amount of GMV, you don't mind paying quite a bit for the platform, especially for hosting your store as well. You start actually be considerate on the money that you're spending if you're just starting out and you're not actually making any money. So we're trying to keep this balance that if you're going to be making a lot of money, you're processing a lot of GMV, you're using the full functionality, then you're going to pay for it. But if you're starting out and you don't have a lot of money to invest, we want to keep a low barrier to entry to the platform.
Now, speaking of this roadmap, and you have made it very clear what's included with each plan, and it's very clearly differentiated, and I agree with you. I think that's important. If you're going to start charging more at higher tiers, it needs to be clear why you're charging more, apart from just the fact that you're doing a higher GMV and therefore you can afford more. I think you have to justify your existence at every tier, and I think you've done that well. Now, I'd love for you to announce here on the pod your latest latest news that just came out today, because I think it's super exciting.
Yeah, so today there was an announcement, our funding announcement. We closed the funding round with Excel, which is a multi-stage fund, Seed Camp, 20 VC. And then we have some amazing angels from like Sam Parr from My First Million podcast and The Hustle, which you probably know. And some ex-Shopify executive like the ex-CMO Shopify, Jeff Weiser, and Blair Whitlick as well, which is the ex-head of partnerships for Shopify. Kevin Indick, which is the ex-director of SEO of Shopify. So we got some cool ex-Shopify executives to bring our vision forward. We closed the funding round of $3.5 million that allow us to expand the team and building this big, complex, but very exciting platform, end-to-end e-commerce platform that eventually is going to challenge my past employer and also Shopify.
Wow. Congratulations, mate. That's very exciting to hear that you've refilled the tanks, even in this very difficult funding environment. You've refilled the tanks and you're ready to go to the next phase of growth. Now, if we look out to the next 12 months, I know that you've got some high priorities on your priority list in terms of new features and functionality that you'd love to bring to life before you bring this thing pretty much fully out of beta and you go hammer and tongs at the market with this. What's the highest priority? If we look at, say, maybe your top three over the next 12, 18 months, what are you going to be adding to the platform that you think is just going to be an additional game changer for the market?
Yeah, I think for us is literally starting to onboard in as many merchants as we can, as we allow, obviously. We're being very hands-on with the merchants right now because we're very much in the learning phase. So there's always been a good fit. VC's venture capital is called a founder's market fit because myself and Corey, we've been merchants for a long time. But I'm humble enough to understand that I've been outside of the game for a while and I need to still learn from my merchant what they want. So merchants are going to decide as well, in a way, what type of functionality we're going to build. I wanted definitely to be them to understand, to tell us what is important for them. So for us to have as much data as we can, and also seeing all these interesting things that they're doing, from these crazy journeys that they're building, from these amazing ideas that they're having, and the way they're using Popup for. We're learning a lot from them. So there are some things that we know already that we want to build. The Journey Builder 2.0, which is a new version where you're going to have much better UX, and we're doing an admin update as well. So that's more like on a user experience level. We're also building like the analytics, the routing, A/B testing. We're building the first apps as well ourselves. We're going to have an integration with StipStation, Made.com as well, that will allow us to integrate with other apps. The big project is also turning Popup into platform, meaning creating an ecosystem around Popup. That building a public API, opening up the platforms to developers, to agencies, so they can build whatever they want. And at the same time, opening up the platforms to apps that are currently just on Shopify, and they can actually build on us as well, because we have a very similar structure to them. So it's going to be a very low barrier for all these apps that are currently on Shopify to be built on Popup. So that's the big project, turning Popup, creating an ecosystem around us.
That was going to be one of my next questions. So you just beat me to the punch, which is great. Is an app store, which seems to be the way that every platform is headed now. Obviously, we've got the Apple App Store, we've got the Android Play Store, Google Play Store, BigCommerce. Everybody's moving to the app store model because, as you say, if you've got a consistent app development and integration framework, then it allows these app developers to have a very clear path to building against your platform and integrating with your platform. So it's great to hear that's already on the cards, because I see that as being almost an essential part of a successful platform nowadays. If you can't build an ecosystem, if it takes a village, that's the reality. Our industry takes a village. We can't be all things to all people. No matter how good our platforms are, we can't be all things to all people. So therefore, we have to be able to build an app model around our platform to create critical mass, right? That's what it's all about, is how can we, as quickly as possible, build critical mass around our platforms.
We're not going to be able to build fast enough, right? We're never going to be able to build all the functionality that is needed and to keep up, as I was saying, with the consumer behavior constantly changing. So I was chatting to a guy yesterday. I chatted to the founder of this company called VideoWise, which I really recommend you to check it out. I think they are on Shopify, so there's a Shopify app that allows video on the front end, on the landing pages, home pages, product pages, to be shoppable. So shoppable videos on the site, and they're doing very well. And we were talking about partnerships and things like this. Like, those are the types of apps that I would love to see on our app store. Someone that does virtual rooms, or an app that can do live streaming. This is the type of functionality that there's no point for us to build native. We need to concentrate on creating an amazing CRM, an amazing backend to make the platform super stable, and at the same time focusing on the journey. So everything related to making sure that our journey builder has an amazing user experience, and giving the functionality that the merchants need to test and create this customer journey. That's what we want to keep native, and that's what we want to focus on. For everything else, an app ecosystem makes a lot of sense. And also that's why Shopify is one of the biggest, it is the only e-com platform to me out there that is still kicking ass. And a platform like Squarespace, for instance, even though they have an amazing front end, they haven't been able to expand so much because they're missing the ecosystem. The ecosystem that Shopify has created is unbeatable in terms of not just agencies, but also every app out there. And we're definitely going towards that route. And adding as well our payment functionality. So we've been talking about pop-up payments already. When the time is right, we'll have to start to monetize the checkout, obviously, because the checkout is our biggest challenge, but it's also our biggest opportunity.
Couldn't agree more. Now, if people want to find out more about you or Popup, is it best that they just go to popup.store? Should they reach out to you on LinkedIn? How do you prefer that people get in touch with you and learn more?
You can reach out to me on LinkedIn because I am very active there. You can go to popup.store to check out the platform. If you want to reach out to me, if you want to talk about partnership, if you want to join the beta, I'm actually the guy that does the demos. So I'll jump on a call with you and we can explore it together. Or if you want to check the platform out, I'm always open to talk to anyone. I really enjoy being in the world of commerce. So if you're passionate about commerce, even though if you don't have an agenda, we can just have a coffee and have chats. I don't mind.
Absolutely. And I encourage people to go and check you out on LinkedIn. Anyway, you got nearly 20,000 followers on LinkedIn, very active there, putting out some great content there for D2C brands, for commerce of any variety. You do some great work there. You are very engaging online. That's how we met. We met through LinkedIn, and I'm very glad that we did. Now, we're at the point of the pod where I get to flip the tables, flip the script. I get to turn the microphone over to you and let you ask me one question. Any question you like. Could be business, personal, doesn't really matter. You get to ask me one question, any question you like. So I'm turning the microphone over to Matteo from Popup. What is your question for me today?
What do you think the future of commerce is?
Wow. Get right to the heart of it. Get right to the heart of it. Look, I think the idea of commerce absolutely everywhere. I've coined a term called stealth commerce, and I coined that a few years ago. And it was related to the concept that in the future, commerce will not recognize a significant amount of the transactions that they make from a commerce perspective as transactions. Many of those transactions will be so frictionless that, and because commerce will be everywhere, because we're going to have smart fridges, we're going to have smart pantries, and our vehicles are going to be smartified, and it's going to be linked to our calendars, and it's going to be able to make bookings on our behalf. And there's going to be systems that create scenarios where it's going to take the concept of, say, a subscription to the next level based on based on replenishment, based on need. There's going to be commerce where the incumbents are so well entrenched because the automations behind commerce are going to automatically funnel those transactions to preferred vendors, preferred partners, preferred retailers. And as a result of that, I think that's the future of commerce. Obviously, the metaverse is going to play a part. Obviously, commerce everywhere and touchscreen everything and three-dimensional experiences and touchscreen glass, where every pane of glass it can become a commerce-enabled experience. Look, there's lots of this stuff coming, but ultimately what it comes down to is the concept that a whole lot of transactions in the future, and I think ultimately a significant portion of commerce will be utterly frictionless, and it will be stealth commerce. The customer will not recognize that transaction as the transaction that they do today because everything's going to be walletized, everything's going to be automated, and they won't necessarily have to click, they won't have to authenticate, they won't have to log in, they won't have to add something to their cart. It will be simply, I want that. It automatically transacts using their wallet of choice, their system of choice, their platform of choice, and it's just going to happen. And it's seamlessly going to happen in such a way that the money is going to be taken from their account before they even realize it's happened. And I think today, if we look at the commerce paradigm of today, there is still an absolute truckload of friction. We haven't really evolved. We've effectively taken the mail order catalog model, the Sears mail order catalog model of 100 plus years ago, and we've turned that into a digital equivalent. And there's still an absolute truckload of friction at every step along that journey. And I think we have to recognize that as an industry, that we still introduce a tremendous amount of friction to people buying with us. And I think most of that friction will go away in the future.
That's cool. Yeah, I share your vision as well. And I asked you this question because we got asked this question a few times. And the answer that I give is similar. I say, I don't know where customer is going to be. Our bet with Popup is that we're going to own the customer journey. So from the time in the Far West until now, there's always been an entry point where you enter and then somewhere you check out. It can be automated, but there is always a journey, right? And if this journey is going to be through virtual rooms where people move from room to room, that's it. That's what Popup is going to go, moving from one room to another room. I do believe, as you said, that the way we shop online with online stores is eventually going to go. I don't think we're going to see online stores in the future. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I think we're not heading towards that direction.
I agree. Couldn't agree more. I think everything's going to be a marketplace, right? Every experience that we have is going to be infused with marketplace capability. So merchants will have to be everywhere where their customers potentially are. And increasingly, that's not going to be on an e-commerce website. So couldn't agree with you more there. Listen, Matteo, it has been an absolutely amazing chat. I've really thoroughly enjoyed not just blowing smoke here. I really love where you guys are headed with this. I love the game-changing nature of what you guys are doing. I think it takes visionaries. I think it takes people that really want to challenge the status quo of our industry, and that's hard. It feels at times like we're pushing shit uphill, but I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to push it around the edges. I'm trying to get people to think about our industry in new ways, particularly around B2B, particularly around D2C, and you're doing the same from a platform perspective. So listen, mate, I really appreciate you sharing your story with us. I wish you every success. Can't wait to get you back on again and talk about Popup in another 12, 18, 24 months and see where you guys are at.
Thanks, Jason. Thank you so much.
Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.